to order. It's Monday, March 8th at 7:01, and we're meeting via teleconference. As chairwoman of the Human Affairs Committee, I find that the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously in this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I'm confirming that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. We're using Zoom, and the meeting link can be found on the agenda as well on the city's website. You can also join by telephone by dialing 1-929-205-6099 with the meeting ID of 841-5024-5329. And the passcode is 264919. The public may also view this meeting on Comcast Channel 16. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting through public postings. Instructions have been provided on the City of Nashua's website at nashuanh.gov and publicly noticed at City Hall and Nashua Public Library. If anyone has a problem accessing the meeting via phone or Channel 16, please call 603-821-2049 and they will help you connect. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting via the methods mentioned above, the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken by this meeting shall be done by roll call. Let's start the meeting by taking roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there's anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know. Alderman Wilshire.
Thank you. Okay, Alderman Gathright.
You're on mute, Linda.
I am present. I'm in the room alone, and I can hear everyone.
Alderman Clee. Did we lose Alderman Clee?
It did look like we lost her.
Yeah, we lost her.
Okay, Alderman Karen.
Yes, I am here. I am alone and I can hear everything.
Alderwoman Kelly.
I'm here. I'm alone. I can hear everyone.
Alderman Wilshire is here. I am alone and I can hear everyone. Alderman Clee.
Thank you. I am here again. I am alone. I can hear everybody again. And that's it, I guess. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes. We have 5 members in attendance and we have a quorum.
I see also in attendance Director Marchant, Carrie Skina. And I think that's it from the city. Yeah. Okay. All right, so we're going to open up the meeting this evening to public comments. So if anyone from the public would like to speak, please raise your hand and I will call on you. Well, I'm on mute. Can you hear me now? I see a few of our applicants here, so I'm assuming you're gonna wait and weigh in when we have that discussion. I see Marguerite's Place, Opportunity Networks, and the Soup Kitchen. So we can chat with you guys when we get to that portion of the evening. Okay. So we're going to start off with a presentation from Director Marchant and Ms. Skina. They're just going to give us a little bit of an update on where we are with some of the affordable housing things. I'll turn it over to you, Director Marchant.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everybody. I was just going to give a very brief overview of kind of what we've learned so far and where we're at, what our next steps are. So we had the the housing study done last at the end of last fall, and we had a couple meetings about the housing study. We learned some interesting things that are unique to Nashua. Some things we already knew too, but some things that are unique to Nashua is that while we have a diverse amount of housing, we have a diverse types of housing in the city, but what we don't actually have a lot of is rental housing for the upper and middle upper incomes. And because of that lack of housing with a high demand for that, we're actually compressing and putting a lot more pressure on our middle income and lower income families, because we are missing that key piece of housing that there is a large demand for. And that seems to be unique from Nashua. Our KG associates who helped us with the housing study kind of pointed that out, and the work that they've done everywhere, that's not necessarily something that everybody has, right? Everybody's in a housing shortage, but exactly how that plays out is a little different. Some really important themes for us are to diversify some of our downtown incomes. We are attracting young people. We have a ton of great jobs that we need to support, but we need to do that without pushing out our existing residents. And so we need to continue to add housing in the downtown. We need to add market rate and add some affordable housing. But in addition, and really talking about affordable housing and looking at affordable housing throughout Nashua, that's the key thing, is that we don't want to concentrate poverty in one area. And so as we're looking ahead, some of the really important things that we're going to be looking at from a policy position are how do we expand and encourage affordable housing outside of our core downtown area? And how do we make sure that we have housing that's affordable in all of our neighborhoods in all the different types? So those are some of the really important considerations going forward. Right now, we are in the middle of the Imagine Nashua master planning effort. It's the city's first long-term planning effort in almost 20 years, if you haven't heard about it already. And one of the topic areas of the 6 topics is housing. And so we're having a lot of conversations about housing, what's important, what do people feel about housing? And as we go forward in the next couple months, we're really going to get more into the form of housing and how that works, and spreading that affordable housing around, and what is new housing or redevelopment, because we are largely developed, look and feel like in a way that works for the community as we continue to grow and be successful. So those are a lot of the conversations. If you haven't checked that out yet, it's imagine.nashuanh.gov. The big next step right now, while we're waiting for all of that good information to come in, is the creation of the revival of a housing trust fund legislation in the city. The city had a housing trust fund about 15 years ago, and there was a specific amount of money put in, and then the fund closed once it zeroed out. So we've put in legislation to revive that, that the mayor and Alderwoman Kelly and others have sponsored. And we have a very small but somewhat sustainable funding source to get us started with an old agreement that we have with Clock Tower. When it first developed affordable housing, they pay the city $10,000 a year. And so we've asked with that legislation for that money to be directed into the fund. We have 3 years worth right now, so $30,000 to start. That is a very small amount, and it's a very tiny piece of the pie, but the goal is to start this housing trust fund, and over the next year or two, really evaluate what are the other public-private partnerships, and what are the other ways that we should be encouraging funding to get into this fund, and then how do we expand how it's used? What are the best uses and sources for this fund? So we'll be coming back to this committee and the full board in about a year and a half with kind of a more concrete plan of exactly how we're going to long-term fund and make this sustainable and what is going to go in it. For now, the fund is to be used for helping with affordable housing, education, both rental and ownership versions, and to kind of give us an overall comprehensive start. So that legislation is on its way through right now, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Thank you for giving us a quick update on that. I know it's been churning around in terms of what things we're doing, and once that housing study came out, so I appreciate you giving us a quick update. Does anyone from the committee have questions for Director Marchand?
I do have a question.
Question.
Linda and then Lori, please.
Okay, so when this was, I guess, enacted several years ago, what did people have to do, or I guess what were some of the guidelines for this particular project?
The Affordable Housing Fund, when it was adopted about 15 years ago, it was given a specific amount of money and it was used for a purpose at that time. And I believe, let me go back and look, it was originally, it was excess revenue from the FY01 budget, and it was for the purpose of assisting nonprofit organizations to help develop affordable housing in Nashua. The new fund, as proposed, is to support the development of moderate and lower income housing. This would be more gap financing. We certainly are never going to have money in this fund to build a project, right? But if there's a project and it needs a gap closed because of the affordable component, that's the intent here. To support the preservation of affordable units. So right now there might be some out there that have some affordability clause that is expiring. Usually they last 15 or 20 years. And so keeping these units on the books. And so things along that line is what is proposed now. But before it just went to nonprofits.
Okay, I have a follow-up.
Go ahead.
Okay, so it's not an individual type. Okay, so it's more geared toward those that are building or renting or selling. Am I getting that right?
Yes, in theory, yes. It's about the affordable housing funds are generally for the creation of new units on the large scale or to preserve existing units. And it is you work with for-profit and nonprofit developers to create or preserve affordable housing units. So it isn't for an individual. However, that is a great question and point because there is new money in the state very specifically for people who are struggling with COVID and who need additional rental support. And the program actually, I think, rolls out tomorrow. It's through the CAP agencies again. So for us, that would be Southern New Hampshire Services. It's online and they will pay up to a year's worth of rent and utilities. And thank goodness the rules changed. That actually includes internet now for all of us homeschooling parents. I know that that's really important. So if you need, if you make less than 75,000 a year, or if you have lost employment or revenue due to COVID, starting tomorrow, you can reach out to your CAP agency. Again, Southern New Hampshire Services, snhs.org, and you can apply right through there for support for, again, rental assistance, utility assistance, and those kinds of things. So that is all available. And I do think with the new funding that's coming out that there is going to be programs for homeowners who need mortgage assistance, but they are not available yet. So.
Thank you.
Anything else, Alderman Harry Cathart?
Nope, thank you.
Alderman Wilshire.
Thank you. So Sarah, through you, Madam Chair, to Director Marchant, the money for the startup for this is going to be from the clock tower project. Where has that payment been going all along?
That's a great question. Several times we've come to you and it's been appropriated to different things. So a couple years ago, you appropriated some of those dollars to go towards matching funds for the transit center renovation. But mostly it has gone into the same bucket as you're going to be talking about tonight. It has gone towards the home. We were putting it out with kind of with the home funds or with these Cdbg funds and using it to close the gap. And, you know, there's always more need than there is available. So what we're proposing going forward is it is $10,000 a year. We don't always get the $10,000 every year on time. So it would go into this fund, but certainly one piece of this fund.
It's not as much money as I hoped.
No.
But thank you.
It's a start.
It's a start.
Alderman Clee. Thank you. Are you all set, Alderman Wilshire? I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director Marchant, I know you said it was 10,000, which is we'd obviously love more. Is there hope or that there will be more and that this will grow? Is that what so this is kind of starting out small with hope that there'll be future monies, or excuse me, and that kind of opens this up?
That's a great question. So the first, yes. So this is one funding source. In the long run, one of the really important things that we are looking at is to talk about inclusionary zoning ordinance, which would require, so if for all large projects over a certain size, in theory, so many of the units would have to be affordable. And if you weren't building them affordable, then you have to pay so much per unit into the fund. So that would be a way to get private dollars into the fund. And that's a great way to also ensure that we're spreading out affordable housing throughout the city and not just concentrating it in one neighborhood. So that's one of the many ways we're looking at. There's a lot of programs around the country with partnerships between government and private entities who need employees and are struggling to find housing, right? And we're seeing more of that here. And so the creation of this funds lets us to start really having those conversations and exploring other kinds of options for getting dollars into this fund.
Just a quick follow-up.
Sure.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Sorry. So Director Marchant, so correct me if I'm wrong. We probably won't get a lot of use out of it at the very beginning, but as we build it up, it will become something that will become quite useful in being able to build our city. You referred to the inclusionary kind of type of zoning where we're going to try to create pockets throughout the entire city rather than one particular area. So by building this up with different funds, we'll be able to do more later, not necessarily this year or even next year, but hopefully sooner than later. And it kind of builds our growth and other people want to come in to the city and work with us. Is that correct? That's what the hope is.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Are you all set, Alderman Clee? Great. You actually asked the question that I was going to ask, so.
I beat you for once.
So, okay, I think unless anyone else from the committee has questions, we can move through the agenda a bit here. But again, thank you so much for opening up that discussion, Sarah, and letting us know sort of what the next steps are with affordable housing. It's all I hear about, but maybe I'm just surrounded by people who want to talk about that. So I'm looking, I don't see anybody, so we will move on to what is on the agenda here. All right. Just give me a minute, my tab closed. I'm sure we have. All right, so we did our presentations. So we have communications.
We have a communication this evening from Carrie Skina, Urban Programs Manager, regarding FY22 HUD entitlement amounts.
There being no objection, I will accept this communication and place it on file. Okay, unfinished business.
We have none.
New business resolutions.
Under new business, we have resolution 21-119 relative to the acceptance and appropriation of $29,777 from the State of New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services Exotic Species Program and authorizing the transfer of matching funds. I would like to make a motion to recommend final passage of resolution 21-119.
All right, the motion is for final passage. Director Marchant, are you here to talk on this?
I am. Thank you. So this is a grant that we have been fortunate enough to get for several years in a row. This grant offsets the cost of treating the aquatic invasive species in the Nashua River. This is a smaller year every other year. So last year we did the canal and mill pond as well, but that treatment plan is only every other year, but the Nashua River is still an every year plan. So this year we'll be treating this grant will help us to treat about 90.5 acres of the Nashua River. The treatment is a Sonar 1 Floridome. And so it's going to focus on milfoil and will help with the wolfia. We saw most of that last year. It's that tiny, tiny little green. It's actually like one of the smallest flowering plants in the earth. So it's a tiny, tiny green plant. And if you went to pick it up, it almost looks like quinoa in your hand. It's all these tiny little things. So that is part of this treatment as well. And so just like the past several years, people will be notified, everything will be posted before the treatments. There'll be 3 treatments over the summer. And so it does go across fiscal years as well. So this is the grant from DES to help us complete that project.
Thank you, Director Marchand. Other questions from the committee? I see Alderman Cleese hand up.
Thank you very much. When I looked at the analysis of this particular bill, it talks about the $44,665,000, and it says of which 20,691 will be included in fiscal year 92. Is that why this is only 29,777?
No, it's a great question. So the DES grant only covers a portion of the total costs. And then we do divide those costs over the 2 fiscal years. So in this existing fiscal year, we will get the permitting done, and hopefully the first treatment will be paid for with this fiscal year. The other 2 treatments will be done in July and August. And so those will be paid for out of the next fiscal year, which you will find in Community Development's budget when we get to the Budget Committee.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Director Marchand. Alderman Wilshire, did you have a question?
No.
Okay, I just saw you off mute. All right, are there any other questions from the committee? All right, I think we're all set for the call.
Motion before us is for recommend final passage of resolution 21-119. Alderman Harriet Gathright.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Karen.
yes,
Alderman Kelly.
Yes,
Alderman Wilshire votes yes. We have 5 yeas, 0 nays.
that motion carries. Okay, new business ordinances
None.
tabled in committee.
We have nothing.
All right, so we're going to move on to general discussion. I'm going to use this part to go through the allocations, and our goal tonight will be to hear from anyone here who would like to talk about their project. I know that Ms. Skeena has done some follow-up with the applicants as well, which was noted in the documents, but we'll just go through them. I'll share my screen and we can start to kind of put some rough numbers in there against that. So I think what we'll do is we'll start off with the people from the applicant pool that are here, if everyone's okay with that. I'm gonna go and have Michael Ranky from the Soup Kitchen start, if that's okay with you, Michael.
That is great. Hey everybody, sorry it's late and I just went out for a walk and still have my hat on. So our proposal is to the project that we're doing at 35 Spring Street. This is an opportunity to not just provide better shelter than we are currently providing at 58 Ash Street and 29 Kinsley, but really to provide an opportunity to give people a foundation that they can then take as a step to the next stage in their lives. We have been providing shelter in the city of Nashua for over 40 years. Actually, this is our 40th year. We started in 1981 providing shelter at 58 Ash Street. And if you've been in the building, it's taken a lot of wear and tear over the course of those 40 years. We have been serving as many as 27 people in that building at any given time. And if you think about the wear and tear that your house has just with your family in it, and then you multiply it times whatever that number is to get to 27 people, that's a lot of people in the same building at any given time. And then our average length of stay for single adults is about a month. So a lot of turnover, a lot of people coming in, a lot of people leaving. So the building is really worn out. And a few years ago, we were talking with St. Patrick's talking about the building that has been vacant for 40 years on Spring Street, and said, what do you want to do with it? And they said, well, we'd love to turn it into a shelter. We said, we would love to be a shelter in that space. We came to you, I think about 2 years ago, and asked for funding to do asbestos and lead abatement, because the building was built and they put asbestos tile down, they painted things with lead paint. The estimate at that time for doing asbestos and lead abatement was, I believe, $325,000. You were gracious enough to give us an award of $75,000. Since that time, we found some other things that need to happen with the building. Turns out slate roofs are only warranted for 100 years, and the building was built in 1893, so that's more than 100 years, so the roof needs to be replaced. The heating and cooling system, because of the building, the age of the building, layout, more expensive than we thought. And I don't know if anybody has done any home improvements over the last year, but the cost of doing home improvements, both in terms of materials and in terms of labor, has gone up. So the cost of doing this has gone up. And so we're coming back, and we're hoping that you can help us bridge the gap. We have raised, as of today, a little bit over $6 million for this project. We have another $2.3 million to go. We have several sources that we're looking to, but getting support from the city of Nashua would, it would not just be important, it would help provide a sign to the other folks that, you know, that this isn't a project that's important to the city of Nashua. I heard as we were talking about several things, including the need for affordable rental units. One of the things I would want to mention is that this project would provide 11 units of affordable housing for single adults. These would all be efficiencies or 1-bedroom units for single adults. That tends to be the type of housing that developers have a hard time making work in terms of their numbers. If you think about, okay, you know, if I build a small unit, I get a small profit. If I build a larger unit, I get more profit. Developers have a hard time making those small units work. This would be 11 units for people quite honestly, that you would see on the streets of Nashua. People that might be, you know, camping out under, you know, by actually where we're trying to develop the old shoe site, the shoe store, to you know, be a new performing arts center. People who are camping out there because they don't have a place to go. Instead, we would say, no, come here. If you have a little bit of income, you pay a little bit of rent. If you have no income, you don't pay any rent, because actually the units are going to be subsidized. So we'd be able to provide housing, and we'd be able to provide support services. So there would be people who would be saying, gee, you're here because, you know, things aren't working out. Let me work with you. It wouldn't just be a standard, you know, landlord-tenant relationship. It would be more of a supportive housing relationship. The other thing that I would want to mention is that every year, I think on average, the city of Nashua spends between $70,000 and $80,000 on hotels for families that don't have a place to stay. In fact, we had a call about a family like this today. There was a mom with a single kid, and she needed a place to stay, and city welfare was saying, oh, well, you know, do you have a space for all of the spaces that we had for a single mom or single parent with a young child were taken at that point. But part of what this new facility would allow us to do would be to have flex space, so that, you know, if there was a larger family, we could open up a room and take that sliding door and make a two small spaces larger, or we could take a large space and make it smaller. We could do that in the new facility. Right now we can. So right now, you know, again, I was talking with City Welfare today, and we're struggling about where can we find a place for this woman to go. So this would provide some significant options in terms of affordable housing that we don't currently have in Nashua, that we don't have as an organization. I would also want to mention that it would provide emergency childcare for families staying in our shelter or families needing emergency childcare from other agencies. We're in conversation with the YMCA that they would be running the childcare facility in the new building to do that. And, you know, it also have, I don't know if you've been to the post office recently, but there's some raised bed gardens there. So we're hoping that people would be doing some gardening there as well. So it's a new opportunity. The last thing I would say is just that we did a similar campaign back in 2012 for our food serving facilities at 2 Quincy Street, where we we took all the facilities we had on Chestnut, moved them over to 2 Quincy. And I think anybody who's been in there recently, my guess is all of you have probably volunteered at one point or another. It's a great facility. We want to do the same thing for providing emergency shelter. We're the only emergency shelter for families, for single adult women. Many other people do transitional housing for families. We're the only one, or only emergency shelter for families in Nashua. Our goal is to get people in and get them out as quickly as possible. And my real point with all of this is that this is the last request that we're going to be coming to you with. We're not planning on doing a third capital campaign 3 years, 4 years, 10 years from now. We're a soup kitchen, we're a shelter. This is it. We did the soup, now we're doing the shelter. And our hope is to say, with this done, then we can move, you know, we can just do what we do, and you can fund all of the other wonderful projects and organizations out there. We're not going to be coming back to you saying, oh, by the way, we need to add on a 5th floor or something like that. That's not going to happen. So with that, you know, if there's any questions.
Thank you so much, Michael. Looks like there's going to be some questions to the committee. So Alderman Wilshire, go ahead.
Thank you.
I think, Laura, your mic is on mute. Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
Anyway, good evening. Nice to see you, Michael. Question of, it's actually not to you, but through the chair to Carrie Skeena. Is there no funding, like home funds for emergency, or that they haven't already tapped into? I don't imagine, but that the city can tap, that maybe a nonprofit couldn't? I don't know. I'm stretching here. I know it, but anything out there?
Sure. So if I may, Madam Chair, I'll answer that. Good evening, Carrie Skeena, Manager of the Urban Programs. I've been sitting here in the background. So in the communication that I sent, I did actually identify it. It recently became an opportunity. So not to confuse everybody terribly, but related to Clock Tower again, but different funding than the one that Director Marchant just spoke about. Clock Tower was originally developed with HUD funding under a program called HODAG, which no longer exists. However, Clock Tower does still repay that loan to the city, and those funds are restricted. They're restricted to be used toward rehab, development, or operation of rental housing. And so we had been receiving those funds into our home program because it was very similarly related, and HUD when we had asked a few years ago, said that was okay. More recently, they, were kind of taking a look at things and asked if we could actually separate those funds out. And so initially, when we were working with the soup kitchen, just due to some technicalities with the environmental home wasn't going to be an option. And so at the time when this HODAG money was rolled into home, we really didn't think that we had anything available to offer beyond the CDBG. With us separating it recently, it's pulled out, it's a total of 75,000 that we have on the books right now. And we receive a $25,000 a year payment on that loan. So that represents 3 years worth. And again, that typically would have gone to a home project, but now we do have it separated. And since it's a new funding source that wasn't, previously identified or talked about, we can avoid that issue with the technicality on the environmental and move ahead. So I did include that in the memo to say that this could be an option for that. And I did speak with Michael about this prior to the meeting as well. So it's not a complete surprise. And then, another thing that we discussed is that if these funds are to come in each year, and maybe Michael can address that more, depending on the timeline of the project, maybe some of these future receipts could be allocated toward the project as well to help close that gap.
Chairwoman Kelly, can I speak?
Sure. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So just on that note, we don't necessarily need all of the funding today. So if, as Director of Urban Programs, Skana, was saying, we could get a commitment for funding, for some amount now and then some amount over the next 3 years with the HODAG funding, that would be exceptionally helpful. Likewise, if it was possible to get some amount of funding through the CDBG allocation this year and then maybe a supplemental next year, or even some this year, next year, and the year after. If we can put all the pieces together that way, that would really work for us. We're looking for funding over the next, hopefully renovation is going to start in June. It's not going to be completed until next year. So if we have some time to be able to pay the bills, if that makes sense.
One of the things I guess promising next year's funding is not as comfortable as I'd like. I mean, it's hard money, and just because we're an entitlement community doesn't mean we're going to get it every year. We're just lucky to have gotten it. And, as long as I've been on it, it's gone down to half of what we used to get. So it keeps diminishing, and I'd hate to promise you funds next year. I mean, I'm not saying I won't. If that's the will of the committee or the board, I would do that, but it's just not a definite. And the way things are going right now, I'm not sure it will always be there, but hopefully it will, because we really count on that bucket of money, as you know.
Alderman Wilshire, I really understand that. My comment was only that I realized that this, I think if you look at all the requests, ours was probably the largest, or certainly among the largest. And I know that there's many good projects out there. We're not planning on coming back to you next year and the year after, and for that matter, at least as long as I'm here, we're not going to be coming back to you again. And so if there was a way to say, here's a request that could be broken out over the next 3 years, and then that wouldn't be quite as much of a burden as it relates to the other very important and worthwhile requests that you get from other agencies. So it might be a way to say that if we could get, I mean, I realize it's a bit much, but if we could get a commitment of 75,000 in CDBG funds this year and next year and then the year after, and then some HODAG funds in it as well. I mean, that goes a long way to getting to us bridging the gap that we need. Right now, we've raised a little bit over $6 million. We have our to be able to go to New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority and say we have all the funding we need. We need to get to 8.2. So if we could get a commitment for, a portion of that from the city of Nashua, and our hope is that this is going to save the city of Nashua money, not just for the next year or two, but certainly for the next 10. So in that sense, we see it as budget neutral.
One follow-up.
Yep.
I would, I don't know if you're taking people on tour of this facility one-on-one. I wear a mask, I'll double mask. I haven't been in the facility, if that's
We would
something
love
you're
to
willing
take
to
you
offer.
on a tour. Yes.
Okay,
I've
Yeah.
toured it, and I would love to. Yeah, I think if the
Right.
committee would like to set that up, that would be lovely.
okay.
We
that would be
did
great.
have the opportunity to take the director of city welfare on a tour, and I believe we were pleasantly surprised that the mayor of the city of Nashua was able to join him. So we
Nice.
would love to take everybody on a tour if they would. We actually, what we did is we did the old shelter, and then we did the new shelter as part of that. So
I don't need to see the old shelter. I've been in there many times, but the new one, I'd really like to get a feel for it.
yeah.
So if Alderman
Yeah.
Kelly could work that out for us. I don't know if probably others that might be interested, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm happy to set that up for the committee, and maybe we just have a either end of this meeting conversation about when that might be, or we can pick a few times and I can bring them up to Michael.
Whenever it'd work, we'll make it happen.
Michael, you are actually
Thank you.
operating that in an emergency
We did.
capacity right now, so
Thank you. Yeah, no, we did get a little bit of, not a little bit, we got a lot of CARES, I think in New Hampshire, we're calling it gopher money, which is part of the legislation that was passed back in April. The old shelter, and again, Alderman Wilshire has been in the old shelter many times, but it's very small. There's not a lot of space, and we had people packed very tightly. And so they said that's not very safe in terms of for a pandemic, probably not in general, but certainly not for a pandemic. And so they gave us some money to renovate the first floor. We've removed all the asbestos, all the lead paint from the first floor, put in new heating and cooling systems, did some work to make sure we didn't have moisture leaking in from the surrounding area. And now it's serving as an emergency shelter for single adult men and single adult women, 14 beds for each. It's not set up the way that we anticipate it will be when we're finished, but nevertheless, it's a huge from the facilities that we have traditionally operated at 58 Ash Street. So it's from that perspective, I'm exceptionally happy to show it to folks.
thanks. I appreciate that. I bring it up just so I'm sure that there's some logistics in terms of bringing us on a tour as well. But I also want to thank you for stepping in and helping with that need right now. So thank you. Alderman Klee, are you all set, Alderman Wilshire?
I did have one more question.
Sure.
Not really even a question, just a statement that I believe, Michael, what you said was, if the city shows investment, it helps with other funding. I mean, it's a big project, and if your town doesn't buy in,
that's exactly the case, right?
Yeah. And I get that. I totally get that. And I think we haven't done anything like this, since 2012 or whatever, but don't make promises to not come back.
I would say that we have you on record a couple times saying you're not coming back.
Thank
I'm
you.
not coming back for either a soup kitchen or a shelter. No, but how's that?
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're all set, Alderman Wilshire. Okay, Alderman Klee.
Thank you. And yes, Michael, never say never.
Right.
You're never going to happen. You could open something up and then all of a sudden you have this issue. I think my question is as much for you as it is for Carrie Skeena. first, I just want to make sure I understand that. This is for Carrie. There's 75,000, and then we're continue for the clock tower fund, and then we'll be getting the 25,000 payback every year. Is that what you said? So this year we'll have 100,000. Did I understand that correctly?
Sure, thank you, if I may, Madam Chair. So yes, we currently have 75,000, which reflects 3 years of repayment, and we anticipate receiving 25,000 per year. The loan is nowhere near paid off, so I mean, I think there's still at least 15 or 20 years remaining where they would continue to pay this, you know, unless they were to do some major refinance and pay it off or something like that. But the original loan was in the millions of dollars, and they had been paying a smaller amount, and then it stepped up at a certain date, so it's 25 a year. And not to be confused with the $10,000 payment that we spoke about going to the Housing Trust Fund. That's a separate agreement also related to Clock Tower, but under a separate agreement and not HUD money.
Okay, and Madam Chair, I do have a couple of other follow-ups. Thank you so much. I'm looking at the spreadsheet that was sent out, and I see under the Nashua Soup Kitchen the $425,000 request. But then in the notes, it talks about existing gaps equals the roof of 542 plus thousand, 220 plus thousand, demo and abatement 203,000. So they're saying existing gaps, but only asking for 425,000. Do you have funding for the other items?
So the total budget right now is 8.3 million. We have commitments, including the initial 75,000 that the city of Nashua provided several years ago. That adds up to a little bit over 6 million. So there's a $2.3 million gap. We have a capital campaign ongoing. We have people that we are anticipating on asking for support, but again, that last 25%, if you will, I mean, $8 million budget, we're at 6 million. The last 25% is probably the hardest to get, and that's why it's really important that anything that we can ask the city of Nashua to do would be very appreciated.
Okay, and I, Madam Chair, if I may continue, and I agree very much with Alderwoman Wilshire said about when the city shows interest, you'll be able to draw more. I absolutely agree with that. I've seen that in other projects as well. So again, I'm going back to Ms. Skeena. So if we had the 75,000 plus 100, I mean, plus the 25,000, that would be equal to like 100,000. Is that above and beyond what is on this sheet? Because I see that if we gave to everybody, we'd have over $500,000 shortfall. So is that 100,000 included in this number or not?
It is not included in the CDBG spreadsheet, or the spreadsheet that breaks down CDBG, and then at the bottom it also has the home funds. It is completely separate.
So if we allocated part or all of that to the Nashua Soup Kitchen project, then we'd only have to come up with 325,000 in CBDG, or is Mr. Renke, Michael, asking for both? Either one of you could answer this.
I think he's asking for both. I think if he had his druthers, he'd have a full 425,000 funded.
Plus the 100,000 or the 75,000 of the clock tower money, or is it just make up the?
Yeah, including the clock tower. So the clock tower funding, that HODAG money was identified after the CDBG application was submitted. Just, you know, within probably 2 weeks ago was when we separated and identified that money.
Okay, so we're just looking at the 425 then. Okay.
Right. So our request is for 425, and whether that's CDBG and HODAG this year or over several years, anything you could do would be very appreciated.
I understand that now. Thank you so much for the clarity.
Alderman Wilshire.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Carrie, could we get a copy or a synopsis of the HODAG agreement?
Sure, I have the agreement scanned in. Again, it's an old document, so the quality is not terrific, but we do have it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Other questions about, we're definitely going to dig into this, and there's some more information that we can dig in when we kind of talk about the allocations. But if anyone has any additional questions for Michael, just let me know now. Anybody? Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Michael. I really appreciate it.
You know where to find me if you have other questions.
I do.
Okay.
I definitely do. Okay. I'm going I see 2 other applicants on here, so I'm going to open it up to them as well. I'll go to the lady from Marguerite's place. Can you just state your name and what your address and what application you're going to be speaking to, please?
Sure. Hi, I'm Krista Sekrenzis, Director of Development and Public Relations from Marguerite's Place. And we are at 87 Palm Street in Nashua. And we applied for Cdbg funding for boiler replacement. A little boring and not very flashy, but they are very old, very in need of, we've had a lot of inspections going on this year with some operational turnover, and it's been identified that they were, the building's 100 years old. The boilers predate our organization, not necessarily original to the building, but we've been there for 27 years and they're older than that. So we received a couple estimates, and this was our best estimate, which always surprises me when things come back and I can't believe the cost of things. But we did our best on that to go with someone local as well for the estimate. And with the year it's been, fundraising has definitely taken a little bit of a turn, and we've lost a little bit of revenue with switching our event to virtual and things like that. So this, we feel, would cover the needs.
Thank you so much. Questions from the committee on this project? Alderman Clee.
Thank you. To me, boilers are important, but there was a note here that said would scale back project to replace the worst boilers. How many boilers need to be replaced, and what are the individual costs? Do you know?
There's 10 boilers, so the total estimate was $59,000. So that includes the purchase, installation, and I believe maintenance as well. So about an average of just under $6,000 per boiler, and it's at 87 and 89 Palm Street.
If I can actually ask a follow on to that, are there some efficiencies in buying and installing them all at once versus doing them piecemeal?
No, I think we would just go by the inspector, which ones they feel like would, I guess that's just anticipating which one is most likely to go first type of thing to avoid any sort of downtime on that. So we would just start with the oldest that they thought and replace from there.
Thank you. Alderman Clee?
Thank you. Just a quick follow-up. I guess my next question would be, do you know at this point how many are a must do or die kind of situation? You mentioned that there are 10 that need to be replaced. I mean, are you looking at, you can anticipate within a year that 5 will go, 6 will go, all 10 will go?
I don't know at that point. I could find out, certainly, if I had to. Yeah, I'm not actually sure.
Okay, and again, I'm just talking to the fact that there's a note here that says would scale back project and replace the worst boilers. I don't want anybody to go without in this situation, but if we knew what was a must that you just cannot live without, that would be extremely helpful to make sure that at least that is covered.
Sure, I could definitely go back to the inspections and the quotes and get some more information on that.
Alderman Clee, you all set?
Yes, thank you.
Alderman Lopez, I see your hand up. I know you may want to weigh in on this one. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Marguerite's Place, are we talking about the boilers that provide heating? I mean, the 87, I think, is the one with the daycare and transitional housing, and then 89 is the office. Would this impact the daycare? Is, I guess, what my biggest concern is.
Yes, we have daycare classrooms in both buildings. So 87 has the the preschool offices and 3 apartments, and 89 has 7 apartments, the infant and toddlers, and 1 office. So it is.
Follow up then, if the boilers do go out, doesn't, number one, that affect the occupancy of the transitional housing participants, or number 2, does it affect the ability to run the daycare?
It would possibly short-term affect it. I would imagine, I guess this is something a little more of a technical question, how long we would find a way to replace it immediately. We would just have to come up with the funds. We wouldn't shut down the daycare.
Sell the playground? No.
Right. Right. We wouldn't, or make someone go without heat, or hot water. So no.
Okay, well, I was just trying to identify how the way this is approached might potentially impact city services, because, for example, if we have people that city welfare was able to refer to transitional housing, that those units have to go offline, that's another cost to the city coming from a completely different direction. And then similarly to childcare, that can affect a lot of parents and families' abilities to generate revenue.
Right. I think we would go for immediate replacement and repair, or whichever we would do, and we would just use funding from other programs. So it could impact a program such as, not the daycare, but perhaps like the family support or something like that, a little less of a immediate basic need.
Okay, thank you.
Are you all set, Alderman Lopez?
Yep.
Great. Any other questions for the committee? All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I also see someone from Opportunity Networks. I think you were potentially with us last meeting, but welcome again. Just name and title and which organization's application you'll be speaking to, please. We do not have any sound from you. That's okay. Didn't want to make you repeat yourself.
She may have to go out and come in if it's not. Yeah, that's happened to me before too. She'll have to
We
log
have good lip readers, though.
We do. Do you want to go out and try come back in, and we can come back to you when you get some sound? Okay, sounds good.
Happens all.
Alderman Wilshire had to do that at the beginning of the meeting. Are there others? I see 2 other people on the call, 1 participant and 1 Jones iPad. Are either of you here to speak on an application?
Jones iPad is part of urban programs, so I know that's with us.
Okay. Participant? No? Okay. Let's see.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yay, there you go.
Sorry, this is my other work laptop. We'll see how this goes. Okay. So I'm speaking on behalf of Opportunity Networks and our 116 Perimeter Road application. And I don't want to take much of your time. I just wanted to make myself available to see if you had any questions on the updated information we submitted. Basically, it is plumbing and electrical upgrades. We want to put in a new water heater, fix some plumbing issues that were found when they did our first Cdbg project, and that are going to affect the one that's going to be done starting in April. Anybody have any questions on any of the stuff we submitted? I know it's a lot of stuff.
Wow, I'm trying to follow. Oh,
Madam Chair,
yes.
may we have her name and address, please?
Oh, yes, that please.
Sorry, I'll start again. Stephanie Willett, and it's the 116 Perimeter Road in Nashua office.
For Opportunity Networks.
Oh, Opportunity Networks. I'm the worst.
No,
Sorry.
you're fine. It's a lot to remember. Did you have anything else, Alderman Karen? You just wanted to have that for the record.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure that was for the record, and I appreciate her coming.
And then I saw Ms. Skina's hand up. Did you want to comment on this?
I did. So unfortunately, and I apologize to Stephanie and the committee, by the time that the updated information came in, I wasn't able to get it into the agenda. So she is referring to some updated information when we reached out to all the applicants. Opportunity Networks they actually have a current project going now this fiscal year. And when that bid came in under budget, so they had a little bit of funding still on the table. And some of the work is related to the current project, it being a bathroom ADA renovation. So with the remaining funds in this fiscal year, we were able to get some of that work done. And so Ms. Willett is referring to the fact that they can revise down the quote that they submitted for the current funding cycle. And if you want, because I know the Madam Chair is keeping track on the spreadsheet, and Stephanie, please tell me if I'm wrong, but the updated quote was for $39,100.
Yes. Yep.
And they had submitted originally for 45. But again, we were able to do about $4,000 or $5,000 worth of work under the existing project that we have. So I do apologize for not being able to get that on the agenda.
And that's actually our fault. We couldn't get that in time. We did submit, and I'm happy to go through. We came up with some alternative plans. We realize, sorry if you can hear my dog. We know you guys always have well more asks than you have funding for. And so we have some alternative plans depending on how you guys can fund us. And we would have to either scale back this project in different ways, depending on however you can fund us. But most importantly is we need to replace one of the water heaters. This office is actually made up of 4 separate units, and every 2 units is on a 12-gallon water heater. And we constantly run out of hot water, which is not acceptable. So, that is one of the main concerns, is getting that water heater replaced. And that's gonna, require some plumbing and electrical upgrades, because it's actually in a ceiling and it needs to come down and go into a mechanical room. When they were doing the first Cdbg bathroom renovation, they noticed that some of the plumbing in the floor is not up to code, and it's not really meeting the demands that's being placed on it. And the project that's starting in April ties into that plumbing. And so we need to, as we continue to do projects there, we need to address some of these plumbing issues. And it has a lot to do with the size of the pipes. And this project before you addresses that. It's fixing some of that accompanying plumbing, so that we don't have any backup issues, that we don't have any pipes bursting, any of those things. And so really scaling back the project, the most important things are fixing, those plumbing issues and addressing that water heater. And we would just wait on the washer and dryer hookup. So, we're willing to work with whatever funding level you can provide for us. We completely understand there's a lot of great projects in front of you.
Just a question. If you were going to just focus on that water heater, what would the total that you would need be?
I think, sorry, I'm looking at my notes. I think the water heater was like 15, it was like close to 15,000.
I think that's close enough.
I think it was right around 15, sorry.
No, you're totally fine. That's good. Alderman Clea, I saw your hand up. Was that the question you're going to ask, or do you have another one?
That was somewhat of the question I was going to ask. I was going to ask when she talks about scaling back the project, what were the different levels of funding that you would need? But so if we looked at the water heater as being about $15,000, and then you said something about a washer and dryer, if we could kind of get a feel as to what are those different scale backs, I think that would help. I'm not saying that we would only want to fund you 15,000, but if we knew precisely, in other words, if we give you 20,000, will you be able to do this? 15,000, would you be able to do this, and so on? I don't want to say let's give them 10,000, and then you have a shortfall of 5 and can't do the project. So
I did provide that. So that was in what I provided the city. It just didn't get to you yet.
Okay.
And
so
we did
Ms. Skinner
different-
has, Carrie has. Okay.
Yes, we did
And we'll
different
get
options.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you so much, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Of course. Anyone else for the committee? Or not from the committee? Okay, I think, thank you for being here and giving us some information on that. I don't see anyone else other than Alderman on this call, so just let me know if I missed you, and then I'm going to share my screen and get us into our Excel document to kind of have this discussion. Hope that's the right one. Okay. The infamous spreadsheet, my favorite. Okay, so we've talked through a decent amount of these. As Carrie pointed out, we've got this 591,000 deficit that we need to start packing
Madam
away
Chair,
at.
is it possible to make that a little larger?
If I can make it larger, but then you won't be able to see it all.
Oh, all right,
I
okay.
can make it big. Oh, is that good? Better? Worse? Maybe if I hide a few. Is that better, Linda? Better-ish. I'll be very
Better, thank you.
okay. I'll be very vocal too. So, okay, so here are projects in front of us. Here's my recommendation to start. Let's just zero out the soup kitchen thing and talk about that separately. Does everyone feel comfortable with that? Because it sounds like there's other funding that we might be able to play with, and that'll help us kind of get a running start on the others. I don't know if you disagree. Right.
No, I don't have a problem with you taking it out for the moment.
Right, because we have that whole other discussion of where we might be able to. Okay, so that brings us down to we're only this 166 from it. I already put in your downgrade to the 39,000 there. So let's start from the top. So we've got the public services with the 15 cap. It looks like this is a little less than last year, but that's what we have in there is the 99,151. We want to just keep that fully. I think we have to. Is that right, Carrie?
So it's a little bit less because it's based on a percentage of the Cdbg award, and the grant went down just about $3,000 from what we were estimating. The 15% is a maximum, so it could be less than that, but typically it's been the 15%. And I did put a little note in there that the Citizens Advisory Commission did wrap up their review. They met for about 7 or 8 weeks, the last 7 or 8 weeks, and so they're just awaiting that confirmed number so they can make their final recommendations.
So if we were to change that significantly, that would change their plan because they've kind of already planned on this 15%.
Correct. They were working on an estimated number, much like this committee was up until we got the real number.
Okay. Alderman Karen?
Yes, thank you. Yes, the CAC committee had over $1 million worth of requests and had a little over $500,000 to work with. And we did not add in the 15% because we were waiting for this meeting to take place. But I would recommend that the committee approve the 15% cap for them, and they're planning on meeting next week to figure out the amount and where it should go for the agencies that were provided money. So that would be my recommendation. I would hate to see you drop it to 10%, but you know, I'll go with whatever the committee recommends.
Okay. How does everyone feel with leaving it at that 15% cap? Good? Happy?
Thank you.
I know this is all rough until we bring it back as legislation, so there are still
Yep.
changes that we can make. I didn't hear any disagreements, so I'm going to move on. That UPD project delivery. Ms. Skeena, do you want to talk to that and the next thing?
Sure. So the project delivery, it covers the wages and benefits. Since urban programs operates completely under these federal grants, we have to cover the cost associated with the retirement and health insurance and payroll taxes that each employee incurs, whereas when it's city funded, it kind of gets covered under the general fund. And so the UPD project delivery is at least one full-time person and then a small bit of a couple other people to actually oversee these projects that get funded each year, and to also oversee the housing rehab programs, which are both the owner and the rental. And then the administration, again, covers the remaining staff. So there are 3 of us who are full-time that charge to these programs, Cdbg and home. And the administration piece under Cdbg also covers all the other costs associated with running the program, registry of deed recordings and public notices, a small bit for supplies and training.
Okay, so we could safely say line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are pretty. We need to keep them as they are. They're covering some salaries, etc. Alderman Clee, go ahead.
Thank you. When you're saying 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5,
it's hard with the Excel document because I blew it up.
No, but I'm down at the request there, so I can see where you're saying 21, 22, and so on. So are you saying that the because I did have a question about the owner occupied housing improvement and the rental improvement program. Trust me, I'm all for every penny going in there, but I see that the owner occupied housing improvement talks about estimated to assist 5 units. If not fully funded, fewer units would be assisted. How many do we normally assist throughout the year? And the same thing with the rental improvement program. I just want to make sure that there's enough, or so that we basically are using what we're funding and so on. Thank you.
Dr. Skeena, these were at least one of these was newer last year, and I know we gave you actually more than you requested last year, but do you want to just give us a quick overview of like what was done last year with it, and did you empty them?
Sure. So the first one there, the owner occupied housing improvement, that is a long-standing program that covers rehab improvements for 1 to 4 family unit properties where the owner lives there. The owner has to be low income as well as the tenants, depending on if we're doing work in the tenant unit. And then the rental improvement program last year was the second year, which is, when I say last year, we're actually in the middle of that fiscal year right now. So we're about halfway through. And the committee slightly lowered owner occupied last year and put more into the rental improvement program. And that was based on the demand that we had been seeing. There's been less demand, or there had been less demand under the owner occupied program. We have seen that uptick, which we really sort of expected once the pandemic hit, for a number of reasons. Certainly because of the economic hardships that folks are facing. Like everybody, people are home more and maybe noticing some of the issues are harder to live with when they're in their home full time. And also, you know, again, not having the resources to address some of those. So recently we've seen an uptick with the owner occupied properties where we've gotten a couple of no heat calls. We've had a couple, you know, we've had 2 SOAR line backups where people didn't have proper working facilities. So that's the kind of work that we would normally do. We have a little bit of money in both of those funds right now for, again, we're only halfway through the fiscal year, so we haven't fully depleted them. And then also the program income, we estimate that at the start of each year, which is at the top as one of the resources. And we usually put in a conservative number of 45,000 to maybe 50. And if loans get repaid and that money comes in higher than what we estimate, then it gets split between the programs. So last fiscal year, you know, I guess I want to say it was a good year for loan repayments and quite a bit of, I want to say around 70,000 in additional loan repayments came in. So that got split into the programs. But typically we do almost deplete those funds. The rental rehab program for sure. You know, I think it's more just maybe that the rental owners are a little more savvy and understand how to tap the program. But we, you know, as it said, to do the units, 50,000, we think, I mean, it would cover at least 5 units, but you never know. Like if we get a lot of small requests, it would do more. And same for the rental improvement. And we're able to leverage on the rental program quite a bit of private investment as well. And we also try to weave it in with our lead program. And so we try to take full advantage of all the resources we have and get the most work done.
Just one quick follow-up, Madam Chair.
Please.
Thank you. So just for those that are listening, I do understand the owner occupied housing improvement program, but could you just quickly go over the rental improvement program? The owner does not have to live there. This is for if I own rental property or if I am a renter. Explain the difference there.
Sure, thank you, if I may, Madam Chair. So, sorry, I didn't quite describe the rental program. Again, we're just in our 2nd year of this, and it is targeted toward a landlord would apply for this. They have to be renting to low-income tenants, and we need those units to be occupied. In rare cases, we may do a vacant unit if it just needs a minor improvement to get it back on the market. But we're certainly not going to go in and, you know, do these full-scale renovations under this program. It's for critical repairs. So again, if a landlord is renting to low-income folks, the idea is that they're maybe not generating as much rent and have as much cash flow as some of the other units. And you know, if there's a no heat or a SOAR backup or a faulty roof, things, you know, unsafe electrical, things like that is what we want to tackle with this program. It's limited. Each owner can only apply once per year. And excuse me, both programs are loans. They're not grants. And so that money does get repaid. It's 0% interest, so it's quite a good deal. And the payments are deferred, so we don't ask you to make monthly payments, but when you refinance or sell the property, the city, you know, gets repaid at that time. And on the rental program, we cap it. The first unit would be $20,000 and then $5,000 for each additional unit. We'll do up to 8. You know, again, we're looking for that smaller scale rental. We're not looking for huge development properties to be assisting. And then on the owner side, same thing. It's 1 to 4 units, and those are the cap there is 40,000 for the first unit. And you know, with the idea that a single family home often is a little bit more expensive, and 5 for each additional. But you know, typically we're not. I want to say the loans average probably around the 20 to 25,000 across the board for both programs.
Carrie, the Kyle Worth project, that was what we used this for last year. Is that true? The one on Broad Street?
No, the Kyle Worth actually came in for home funding. on Amherst Street, right on the wedge there. I was trying to think Broad Street. So yes, on Amherst Street, Kyle Worth is the landlord, the owner. He was acquiring that property, and that was under home funds, which is actually underway right now. So.
I'm excited for that project. Okay, thank you for that. So what is the will of the committee here? Do we want to change these allocations potentially? Start with owner occupied.
Can I ask a question about the rail trail?
Can we wait until we finish the other two that we're talking about?
Sure.
Thanks. Alderman Clee.
Madam Chair, if these are used basically up to full, I would hate to see them come down, simply because this is going to be a hard year to begin with. While there are the new gopher care grants, whatever you want to call them, that are helping renters and that hopefully will eventually help those with mortgage owners, I think this is still going to be a tough year. And this is one of those things I think that people will be coming in with emergency. Their boiler or their heater went down, or as Ms. Skeena pointed out, sewer backup or so on. A lot of people are stuck between a rock and a hard place right now. And I hate to see us bring this down. While I would love to be able to, I fear that we could be shooting ourselves in the foot and not being able to help as many people. So I think we should keep it where it is.
Other comments from the rest of the committee, I guess. We can keep proceeding with things as full. We're gonna eventually have to find somewhere to cut. Okay. All right, so rail trail, they need the full match to complete the project here. And they're saying that there doesn't appear to be another funding source for this. Alderman Wilshire.
Thank you. I'm not going to be voting on this CDBG. However, I, as always, have, I do take the opportunity to give my input, even though I don't vote. I mean, it's just what I've done, and it's been okay. This past year has been really, really tough on some of these nonprofits. I guess my concern or my druthers would be to help the ones that have a need. I mean, they all have a need, don't get me wrong, but some of these nonprofits come to us and they're doing preventive type stuff, and well, maybe we need this, so maybe we'll need that. And that's great. But there are some that, I mean, like a roof or an ADA bathroom that are a definite need. I don't know. I guess I may be going a little off on that one, but I think there's a lot of need in here. The soup kitchen, yeah. They're giving the city what the city needs, and it's affordable housing for people. So I don't know. Good luck with it. I'm not gonna vote on it, but I certainly have my thoughts about it. It's a tough year, and I think we should put the most needy thing on here, and look at the others next year. So that's my input. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Alderman Karen.
Yes, thank you. Alderman Wilshire really took the words out of my mouth, because I had made some notes earlier today, and to me, someone who needs a new roof or needs to replace plumbing and heating, to me, takes priority over a rail trail, which certainly could be taken care of down the road or with contingency funds or things like that. So for me, I would zero them out and take that money and put it towards some of these other costs. So I think it's important that we look at those agencies and the needs that they're providing to their clients, and without a good roof or without an ADA acceptable bathroom. I think those are a little bit more important at this point than the rail trail. That's my thought, and I will be voting.
Yeah, and I'll be in the same boat as Alderman Wilshire, being on the board of the soup kitchen. But yeah, it's not an easy place to be. You don't want to look at someone and say you can't have a boiler. It's kind of a big need there. So it sounds like Alderman Karen is saying, let's see if we can find that 68,000 somewhere else. How does the committee feel about zeroing that out?
I agree.
We have a yes from Alderman Clee. We have a yes from Alderman Karen.
And I'm good.
And okay, so
I hate losing matching funds, but they're going to have to find it somewhere else, because I agree. We can't tell someone you can't have an ADA bathroom or fix a leaky roof just so that we can do the rail trail. That just doesn't cut it.
So if we zero that out, we're only about 100,000 away, and then we'll have a whole. I have some other thoughts on the soup kitchen, but like I think that there's opportunities that not necessarily in this to get them closer to what they're looking for. And obviously, 425,000, we cannot have it. Okay, so rail trail zeroed out. We're moving on to plus. They can't absorb the costs here. You want to keep that full?
No, I've been speaking so much. Please, Alderman Harry Gathright, you speak first.
I just have a question. Last year, did we do a bathroom for the Plus Company? I thought I remembered ADA compliant bath. I think they had 2 last year. Wow, I can't even believe I remember that. But I know.
They did, and you're right. And I can't remember if we only partially fund it and that's why they're back, or if there's an additional bathroom.
I don't remember.
Do you know?
I do. This is a different bathroom. The bathroom that was funded last year has went out to bid recently. We're just waiting for the contractor to give us the actual start date. They had requested 25 last year and received 15. And so they do need to fill the gap. I don't know exactly what the bid came in, and I would have to look. But this is a separate bathroom for this request this year.
Alderman Clee?
Yes, again, the note says that they can't absorb the cost. They would prioritize the restroom modifications, but we don't have a breakout as to what would be the HVAC, which would be the ADA bathroom. My concern is the need for the HVAC. I always look at heating systems and so on as a priority, but I do understand the need for an ADA bathroom too. So I guess I would love to know what the breakout of the 69.8 is. And they said that the one thing that they would do would be the bathroom. So what would be the cost of the bathroom?
I mean, Carrie said last year they asked for 25 for the bathroom if we wanted to put a rough number in at least. She's looking too, it looks like, but I think last year.
Yeah, I'm sorry, if I may, I was looking actually in their application to see if they had a breakdown of that, and it looks like, and I want to keep looking just to make sure I'm not missing anything, but 9,800 for the bathroom piece of it, but let me just look at the other documents to make sure that's correct.
I bet you. I bet you the HVAC is a good $50,000.
Yeah.
So, and if we gave them 20 for the bathroom, I think that would be, at least to put a number in there, as you said, Madam Chair.
Ms. Skeena, go ahead.
Yes, so again, looking at their application package, they had 2 attachments, and 60,000 was for the HVAC piece of it, and the 9,800 was for the bathroom.
HVAC's expensive.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the large building over there.
What would the committee like to do here?
If we did 20,000, that would give them 10 towards their bathroom and then 10 towards their HVAC. Is that correct?
But they can't absorb the cost, so they wouldn't be able to even start the HVAC. It sounds like.
So we either give them the 10 or we give them the 69.8.
That's how I'm reading it.
Okay, then let's do the money for the bathroom.
What does
So
everyone
make it 10.
make it 10?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And
Well, nothing. Oh, come on. I quit.
Just hit escape. Hit escape. It'll get rid of it. Good.
What? Just do it. Come on.
Carrie has her hand up.
Go ahead, Carrie.
Thank you. So I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't misstating anything because obviously they put these applications together, but it looks like the HVAC, I misspoke, is not for their Chestnut Street location. It's for it's a home located on Harbor Ave, which is has 24/7 staffing. And it basically says that they're using separate air conditioners in windows and in common areas. So it seems like the HVAC would be to install central air conditioning in that property.
Does that change anyone's discussion or potential allocation?
No.
no.
Because at least they would have, they have the units, the separate units.
All right. So if we do that, we're 38,000 is what we're looking for.
Mhm.
So the next one, they're saying the roof is leaking. This is for Girls Inc. It will be done. They'll either use cash reserves or apply for other grants if we don't give them the full amount.
Okay.
I am
So-
not the best at sharing a spreadsheet. It's not easy. Make it big, make it easy.
So-
Sorry.
I was thinking maybe give them 2/3 of what they're asking for because they do state that, they could reach out to others or
So
have.
like maybe 20,000 versus
Yeah,
30.
maybe 20, yeah, and
Yeah.
reach out for the other 10.
I agree. The fact that they said they could apply for other grants tells me that they should try to apply for other grants as well. Grab as many resources as possible.
Yeah.
Other comments, committee?
No, I agree.
Go ahead. Alderman Wilshire, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Is that work already done, Carrie, or in process? I didn't think we could fund out of CDBG if it's already started or.
It says roof is leaking, must be done. True. Yeah.
If I may, yeah, no, it's my understanding it's not. I think that they have, I think it's leaking over the gym from what I understand, and they have basically receptacles to catch any water that's getting through.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily pouring in, but that roof had been discussed many years ago, actually. I think when I first started here, which a long time ago now, but and it's a complicated roof, which is probably why it's so expensive.
You
Thank
think an old dad had to build roofs?
It's a metal roof and it's like integrated into the building somehow. Like it's not easy to do.
Okay. Is the committee comfortable with the 20 for purposes of discussion moving this ahead?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. And next is Marguerite's boilers. They can do them all, or they can scale back portions.
But we don't know.
Sorry, could I jump in? I just double checked the numbers and it's actually 12 boilers, not 10. I had unit numbers in my head. So it's the 10 apartments plus the 2 childcare areas.
Mhm.
So it's estimate of just about 5,000 per boiler,
Okay.
which includes installation and inspection fees as well.
Great.
So just wanted to clarify that. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Thank you. Committee
But we-
member, what do we think?
But we don't know which ones are a do or die.
Right. I know last year when we were doing hot water heaters, basically they were just giving us an estimate and then they were guessing at which ones might go, so it could be the same type of situation. They would just estimate based on usage. I'm not exactly sure of that, but I could look into it and get back to you if necessary.
Oh,
My concern is if we only gave like 50% of it, if we gave $30,000,
that's what I was thinking.
We just cross
we
our
could start
fingers.
with that, and
Yeah.
that would give them at least half what they have. They say they can't absorb the cost, and I can understand that, but
It would be a matter of, replace the half the 6 that they think would have the most potential to go, or that maybe they would, we would probably do the childcare centers first, prioritize those, go down from oldest department. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look into that. Cross our fingers for a year and hope we make them till next year and apply for the rest.
but Madam Chair, if I may, my concern is if we did say 50% and that only allowed them to do 6, but they looked into it and it turns out that 10 could go within 3 months. I don't want to short sheet them in that respect either. I mean, I would feel more comfortable if I knew which ones were an absolute must, will not last the year. I mean, I hear what you're saying, that we could keep our fingers crossed for the year. I would just feel more comfortable with it. I mean, for a placeholder, we could just put in the 30,000, but I would really like to know truly what is a must.
I also I'm trying not to weigh in too much because I won't be
I would
voting.
like to give 40.
So my comment was going to be before Alderman Harry Gathray was weighing in is there can be efficiencies in doing it all at once too. And it's not a science to knowing. I mean, I work on actual business lines that do this stuff. Like they might hope it's going to last and then it doesn't. So I would love to give it all to them.
I know.
We would love to get
My-
that.
Well, we're gonna
I
come
think
back
we
to
should
that
leave
one.
it at 30 and see what our numbers are, and then we can always go back to it.
Yeah, true,
I agree.
true.
30 sounds like everybody likes that 30.
Yeah, at least to start.
Well, I keep
Just hit escape. And
why
I'll
does it do that?
because you're bringing up
Doesn't
formula.
like you.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm bringing up the formula. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. All right. Next, the children's home roof.
I had that at 20 because they're willing to do some fundraising for that. So I thought that might work, and then if we could add to it, that would be fine. But I think at least 20 would show that we know there's a need for that.
Is 15,000 a reasonable amount for them to be able to fundraise?
I think so.
Answer that, or do you want to not weigh in here?
Well, they say that they will fundraise the difference, so I think 20 would be great.
Fire escape, it looks like it's reprogrammed, so we don't need to handle that. Let's come back to the soup kitchen in a minute because that's a big discussion. We're getting close, guys. All right, so area agency fencing. They would do the most critical work or scale back the project if we don't give them everything.
Do you know where that fencing is? Because
That's what I was going to ask.
I know where the office is because I've been there several times, but I don't
I have
know.
another tab open with the applications, but I'm afraid to move.
Okay.
I know.
You sound like me.
Go ahead, Alderman Wilshire.
Thank you. One of them is on Atherton Ave, and the other one is on Beard Street, which is over near Lofts 34.
Okay.
I had them down for 10 for the moment, just to kind of get a number and a feel as to what we have.
Okay.
What were the dollar amounts for each of the areas for Atherton and Beard? Did the application break out?
So we could potentially at least fund one and versus like Apple one or something?
Yeah, that's
Sure, I
yeah.
can answer that. I have it open. This is Carrie. So 33 Atherton, the estimate is 12,990, and for Beard, the cost estimate was 8,280.
Do they happen to
So
mention which one's more critical if they had to pick and choose?
They did not when we asked that question.
I would give them the 12,000.
So it's 12,000. What was it? 12,900.
It'll be 13,000.
12,990 was their number.
Might as well go.
Oh, you're gonna mess that up.
I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna go for it.
You are. Wow, you're brave.
Look at that. Okay. HVAC at the Nashua Center.
I don't understand
Where's
the
the
notes.
Nashua Center?
Carrie, do you have that in front of you?
I can in 1 second. So the Nashua Center is out on Simon Drive, Simon Street. And this is a center that is a day center for adult people with multiply handicapped issues. And so they have different programs and that they run out of their building.
And they're saying that they'll seek other grants, so they do have some potential opportunities to fundraise beyond what we give them. Go ahead, Alderman Walter.
Me?
Yep.
Oh, sorry. My computer's really giving me a hard time, so I apologize for that. The Nashua Center, they do great work over there. I know some of us have been over there, and the problem with them saying, I don't know why these responses are in here. Did we ask the question more prevalent that what would you do if you didn't get the money? So they're responding. Is that why we're getting these?
Yeah, so remember last year, our kind of standard back to the groups where, you know, what's the most critical if we weren't able to give you the full funding? What would that look like? And, you know, so we could have these discussions. And I think we asked the same ones, and these are the answers that Messina got back from the applicants.
So just going off of that, I don't know. I mean, I imagine it's all the nonprofits that, you know, we didn't get our golf tournament in. We didn't get, you know, this is the second year in a row. That's one of our bigger fundraisers. There was no golf tournament, you know, things like that, that we can't just simply recover that, you know, even if we had one in June, which we're not planning, we would have already had to reserve it and plan it by now, because we're still in a state of emergency. But for these nonprofits that you're asking that, I wouldn't assume that they have the ability to fundraise as much as half of what they've asked for. Any of them, any of the nonprofits, because, you know, if you miss your biggest fundraisers, I don't know about the soup kitchen. They usually have a dinner and
they have
whatever, you know, 100,000 plus. I'm not sure if that affected them this year, but I know most nonprofits have already been affected by the scale back in their ability to raise funds. So anyway, just keep that in mind. That's all I got. Thanks.
No, I think it's a really good point, Lori. And hopefully we're getting out of that and we'll be starting to get back to some normalcy with that stuff. Because you're right, those fundraisers are really important for all the nonprofits.
I wish someone was here for this one, because I really don't quite understand the replace what they can with CDBG. These are the CDBG. It says then seek other grants followed by fundraising. So I know they're giving us the scheme of what they would try to do. When they say replace what they can with CDBG, are they saying that whatever we give them, then they'll seek grants and then they'll try fundraising? Is that what that response was? I think Ms. Skeena probably cared.
Yeah, go ahead, Carrie.
So, I mean, I can try to speak to it. Again, these responses came in through email, which sometimes can be tricky to boil down and understand the intent. The proposal is to replace 5 units. that are on the rooftop. They referenced that they estimated to be about 20 years old and have started giving mechanical and maintenance issues for them. And so I think what they were trying to say in their response was, you know, they would do as much as they can with the funds. So maybe they wouldn't be able to replace all 5 units. They would replace whatever the funds would allow, say, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 2. And then beyond that, they, you know, I think not necessarily wrapped into this project, but maybe at another time they would look for funding to be able to do the remaining units. That was my understanding.
Again, we don't know what their critical need is, though. In other words, do they need that it's drop dead that they need to replace 2 or 1? Or I know you said something about the
right?
giving them a hard time. It's a hard time, but so we don't know what the exact number. And I to speak to what Alderwoman Kelly had mentioned about, you know, sometimes they can get a better deal if they do it all at once. I'm not sure that we can necessarily think ahead that way for them. While I would love to be able to, I would still like to know, just like with the boiler at Marguerite's place, what is the must have? And I mean, I see we got $23,000 here, but I also know that we've got the Nashua Soup Kitchen that's looming over us, and and we've already taken away from others. So I wish we knew what were their must-haves. You know, some places said, we can't absorb the cost if you don't give it to us. We just can't do the project.
Yeah, Alderman Wilshire, go ahead.
Thank you. You know, the process tonight is just to start putting the resolution together. It's going to stay in committee. We're going to go through the resolution. We can get all the answers to those, well, you know, as much as possible. We can't tell when a boiler is going to go or a roof's going to go or anything like that, but we certainly can get more information so that when we do get the resolution, that we have that information so that we can make a recommendation to the full board.
Okay, then I would recommend 40,000 for this one.
You want to do 40?
It would have to be 45.
45.
Why?
Yeah, 45.
Oh, that's fine.
That covers 3.
Okay, then that's what I would recommend, going for the 3.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. So that leaves us with this 48,000. If we're kind of, do you want to go back through this? Does everyone feel comfortable?
Did we do the last one?
Oh,
No,
we did.
no, sorry. I'm sorry. The Plumbing Opportunity Networks, 39,100 is the new total that we just got on this call.
And what it says there, she says that the 15K is the most important.
I looked back through. So it's 15,600 for the water heater, 13,000 to fix the plumbing. So that's 28,600 for the 2 most critical pieces. But if you wanted to break those 2 pieces apart, it was 15,600 for the water heater, 13,000 for the plumbing. And then the rest was for the washer dryer hookup, but that's not critical. That was just, that was a important piece, but it's not critical. If you were looking for those numbers earlier, sorry, I just wanted to make sure.
What was it, 28 what?
28,600.
If that helps you.
That would do everything but the laundry hookup.
Okay.
Yes. So if that helps you at all.
Yes, I say that. Let's go. Yes.
Go for that.
Okay. So then we did everything. So now we're looking at this around 60,000 left over. The soup kitchen is asking for 425,000.
There's no way.
So the suggestion potentially from Messina was we can use the HODAG, which is 100,000, which is outside of this, right? And then the other possibility is we could use that 30,000 that we're putting in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which would get us to 130. Correct, Carrie, or no? We can't.
No, the Housing Trust Fund money is separate, and that's going through the ordinance or legislative process now.
Yeah, we can't touch that money.
Mm-hmm.
Potentially we could at some point though. because it is a project that would fall in that purview, correct?
I know, but that's they're trying to build it up.
Right.
So the Housing Trust Fund, I'm sorry, the Housing Trust Fund is being created with a lump sum of 30,000, which reflects 3 years payment. The payment is 10,000 a year, excuse me, that comes into the city. And again, it doesn't always come in on time. That 30,000 came at once. And those funds are not HUD restricted. Those are considered discretionary funds. So that's why we're able to use them for a non-HUD purpose, or not necessarily restricted to very low income development. Whereas this 25,000, that's the HODAG loan repayment, is restricted for low income rental occupancy.
So if we were going to do the HODAG the way that we requested, so we give them the 100,000 now, have we ever done that in the past where we then say we're going to give you the next 3 years of 75,000 because we know that's coming in? Is that something we could do?
I'm not sure who wants to, I don't know who you're asking, but I know when I first started there, and maybe some of the more experienced folks here should certainly answer that, but I know when I first started, at least under Cdbg, there were some awards that were multi-year awards, and it was always subject to the city receiving a minimum amount of their entitlement. The HODAG, again, is a little different because it's kind of in its own little path. It's not an entitlement, it's due to loan repayment. And again, to be clear, we have 75 currently in the books. We anticipate receiving another 25 this fiscal year, but it usually comes in like literally at the end of the fiscal year, late June. And we would anticipate that each year following that. I don't know if Alderman Wilshire looks like she's got the experience on this committee.
I'm looking for some hands. Okay, Alderman Wilshire, go ahead. And then I see Alderman Clesian.
Thank you. Yeah, we have in the past done multi-year awards. It kind of ties our hands if it's a substantial amount of money. I could add my opinion, but
I would be happy to hear your opinion. I'm trying not to have an opinion on this one.
Well, it's something we need. The city needs this program. They need this building. They need this service. They need this agency. It's a huge need. And for 11 units of affordable housing for single adults, I mean, it's short money for the city. This is a case, and I think in the past it's been the case where it was a big chunk of money for some nonprofit, and we did that over like 2 or 3 years. And I don't favor that because next year something else could be more important. But I don't think homelessness is going away, and I think this is one of those areas I might support doing a multi-year grant. Of course, I'm not voting, and it's up to you guys. So that's my 2 cents.
What may I, Madam Chair?
Yeah, go ahead, Alderman Clay.
Thank you. When we're talking a multi-year, I guess I agree with everything that Alderwoman Wilshire just said. It's a need. It's a need that I think that we really do need to try to find money for. But I do feel uncomfortable when we start looking and promising funds that we don't have yet. We've been slowly seeing funding going down, and that means that if we promise them, then somebody else is not going to have it. Maybe some roof isn't going to be filled and so on. I agree. We need to try to find this money or get as close to that 425 as possible. When we're looking at a multi-year, if we only have $100,000 and maybe 50,000 that's left over, so say 150,000, we're still looking at what, $275,000. How many years are we looking into the future? What is it that the promissory note that they need? Do they need it within 3 years, 2 years? Do we know that answer?
And I think Michael dropped off, but I think,
yeah, I didn't see him, so.
Yeah, we could ask him that. I mean, he mentioned in his testimony, like over 3 or 4 years potentially. I think that a combination of a multi-year HODAG plus a multi-year you know, potentially if people are up for it here, might get us is pretty close.
But the HODAG, we're only talking $25,000 a year after this year, correct?
It'd be 75 the first year and then 25 for how many years we want to potentially allocate that. And Carrie said there's like 16 years left, like it's not going away, and it's a definite funding source. It's not.
I know, but we don't want to promise him 10 years of $25,000 if he
I
needs
don't
it.
want to do 10. No, I do not want to tell them they're getting this trickles for 10 years. But I'm saying, in comparison to saying we will give you CDBG money, which we don't know what that allocation is going to be, we know we're getting the $25,000. Is that correct?
But yeah,
Carrie?
then it's only 25.
So right now, we just want to move that net difference, correct?
So we got 60,000. We didn't touch these. I'll just point that out, that the owner occupied and rental occupied are there.
Exactly.
I really, really believe in those programs, but we don't know if these need exists, and this is absolutely a need that exists right now. So I will put that out there. I'm trying to be as neutral as possible, but I think there's something to be said about that as well. And to the point that Michael made, you know, this really is going to help the city's bottom line. We're not going to have to be putting families up in the hotels to $80,000 a year. We're increasing the number of beds for women, and you know, we'll have those affordable housing units, which we've heard is our #1 priority right now. With the thing we just went through last year in terms of making what our priorities are for this money. So that's all I'll say.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
Okay, so is Carrie still on?
I'm sure she's still here.
Yes.
Okay, so through you, the two projects that we didn't take, the owner occupant housing improvement and rental improvement program, Carrie, did we use all the money that we had provided last year, or what's left is how much?
Sure, if I'll answer that. We haven't used it all yet. We're about halfway through the fiscal year now. And, you know, again, we don't typically even have access to the funds until the fall. So it sort of happens on a rolling basis. I can, as we're chatting, I can try to pull up the numbers and give you the balances that we have available right now.
Okay, so Madam Chair?
Yes.
May I ask? Okay, so Carrie, has it consistently been utilized? Have we ever had, let's say, a $50,000 balance at the end of the fiscal year, or has this consistently been utilized?
There have been years where there are balances at the end of the fiscal year. It's not typically because the seed money didn't get spent. It's normally because more loans were repaid than what we anticipated. And I know, again, the rental improvement program gets depleted very quickly, or at least it did in the 1.5 years that we've been doing it. And the owner occupied program had lagged, which is why we scaled back funding requests last year, and even this year lower than what we've asked in the past. But again, we've seen a little uptick in that recently, and sort of expensive projects that have come in.
Okay, thank you. Madam Chair,
Yes.
question to you, because I can't see it.
Mhm.
What do we have for a balance after we put in all these figures?
Yep.
'Cause
So
I
where
couldn't-
we are right now is we have 59,000 that we can allocate, and what we've zeroed out is the rail trail, and we are currently talking about the soup kitchen, and everything else has gotten
Right.
some number of funding.
Okay, so if we put that balance into the soup kitchen,
Do that, the
Yeah.
60,000.
then, yeah, whatever it is, 50,000.
Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. I sorry guys, I'm a writer. Me and documents, they're not so
That's
good.
all right. We'll send you ABC.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
Okay,
so if
for
we had that,
Yep.
so if we had that and took 25 from the other two accounts that we were just talking about, that
Yep.
gives them a little over $100,000.
Yep.
And don't get me wrong, I think this is a big project they've taken on. But as I said earlier, all these other agencies are small and they're suffering. But at least if we show a good faith effort that we've given them that much money, and then if we can give them some from the other other projects, it's like $225,000. I do not agree that we should say next year we'll give you another 150 or 200,000. I don't think that we should be doing that, because we just never know what we're going to get or what the requests are going to come in from other agencies. I really have a hard time trying to wrap my head around it. And I know we did that, and I don't remember the project, but I think that $400 and some odd thousand is such a lot of money at this point in time. But I don't mind taking that 50 and taking 25 and to bring them to 100,000. And I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. And I know we'll look at it again when the resolution comes through, but at least it gives us something to work with. Or you start taking from all the other agencies, but you're talking $5,000 here or there. So
yeah.
That's
Do you
my
feel
thought.
similarly about the multiple allocation if it's outside of these funds with the HODAG, or are you just talking about the CDBG?
I'm talking about CBG right now.
Okay, so you're not for
So
giving
that would give them like 100 and, give them like $125,000 or something. Sorry.
Okay. Linda, go ahead.
I would be okay if I understood what Alderman Karen said. She wanted to take 25 from the rental and then 25 from the owner occupied. Was that what I heard?
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that Ms. Skinner had told us that she had already downsized that owner occupied. So I would not be trying to take anything from there. But if you want to take 25 from the rental, I'm okay with that.
Okay. I don't have a problem with that.
I agree. I agree with taking the 25 from the rental. Now, when we're talking about the 125,000, you're talking about the 100 coming from the HODAG. Is that correct? Because we only have the 59 plus adding that 25 to it. So now we're looking at about 85,000, little less than $85,000. So if we did 125, we still have to come up, unless we're talking about the HODAG money in addition to what we have in CDBG.
I think that's the discussion. So if we pull that 25 down here, that's CDBG money, and then we also give them the 75 in HODAG.
Right.
Okay, just so I have that clear.
So rental becomes 100,000.
Yeah.
Laurie's hands up too.
I'm just, there's nothing. This is just funny for now. Go ahead, Lori.
Okay, so I'm always reluctant to do multi-year out of CDBG, just because I don't think it's good practice. And I don't really, if I was voting on this, I would not want to do it either, but I think we need to do it. It's not a want in the city. It's not a want for the soup kitchen. They're the only shelter for families. We need to do this. And I think the HODAG thing is a great find. I think whatever we can do to help them, I think we should. And I don't like multi-year commitments. However, we can put in the resolution anything we want to say, like if the city gets less CDBG money, they get a proportional cut to what we might promise them. Say we said we'd give them 75 a year over the next, this year for 3 years. I'm not saying that's what you should do, but what I'm saying is we can write into the resolution, if the city gets 500,000, then our commitment to them would be proportional to that cut. So that's just my 2 cents. I know I shouldn't be weighing in on the money part, but Carrie, are you fully staffed? Do you have everybody?
Urban Programs is fully staffed right now.
Okay, thank you. All set, thank you.
What does the committee think about Lori's just comments here? Everybody quiet.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
may I ask a quick question to Alderman Wilshire?
you sure can. We're in general discussion. Go for it.
Alderman Wilshire, and I appreciate your 2 cents because I think it's important. Do you think on that resolution, are you looking to put a dollar figure that they would get
Yes,
next year?
yes.
So if we put in, they would get $100,000 next fiscal year, unless the funding was lower than this year?
Correct. We could put something in the wording of the resolution so that we're not, you know, if they cut it back to 500 and or even if they cut it back to 400,000, we don't want to give somebody, one group, you know, a major portion of that. So I think it helps us all the way around. I think it helps us with the welfare budget. You know, if there are places for women and a child that are homeless, if there's a shelter, if there's a place here at Spring Street, we're not spending $70,000 or $80,000 a year at hotels.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I'm sorry. So I wouldn't have a problem if it was worded so that they understood this, let's say the committee decides that it's $100,000. But that they understand that they won't get 100,000, they might only get 75 because the numbers went down to 400,000 or 450,000. That they would have to understand that.
That would be written into the resolution this year, if that's what the will of the committee would be.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right.
I have another question.
Go ahead.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Are you all done, June?
No, I'm crying here.
All right, Linda, go ahead.
Okay, all right. So now we're at the 84,132, but I think earlier you talked about, is it some other monies? I think it was it $100,000?
So I think we were saying this is
75.
84 from Cdbg, and then the 75 from HODAG would get them to around 150, 160 for this year.
Okay.
Is that right? Go ahead, Carrie. Did I miss something?
No, you didn't miss anything. I just wanted to also offer that the $25,000 payment due for this current fiscal year 21, is likely to be received in June, July-ish. Or at least that's when we've gotten it before. So the committee could also consider that pending, you know, assuming that payment does get received this fiscal year, and do the HODAG at 100,000.
So it'd be 100,000. So we'd give them 184,000 this year between the HODAG and the Cdbg, and then depending on if the committee felt good with it, we could build into the legislation some more Cdbg and HODAG for next year.
So,
Madam Chair,
so basically we're at 200,000, then we have 225. I'm just adding.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Alderman Clay.
I agree with the 100,000 from the HODAG. I'm not sure I necessarily agree with the 84,000 that's just sitting there, because that gives us absolutely nothing in contingency. And I know in the past we've done the no contingency, but I'd like to have something in contingency just in case we ran into some kind of a problem or shortfall somewhere. But if say we did the 100,000 and even say 50,000 or 60,000 and give them the 160,000, how would you talk about doing the rest when HODAG is only going to be $25,000 for each year going on? So are you saying, and I know you were kind of talking out loud, you were saying, you know, we would give them X amount of dollars, but so just let's do the math here as Alderwoman Harriet Catherine was doing. So we take the 425,000 and what do you think would be fair? I don't really like 184,000 because that leaves us absolutely nothing to backlog anybody else that we've cut.
If we were to break that into 2 years, we would say they're looking for 212,500 a year. So 425. For you to break it into 3 years, which I think goes a little far personally, we're talking about 141,000. Is it helpful to frame it that way, that we're looking for 212,500 over 2 years?
I think we need the initial amount that might be more,
right.
The initial amount.
212 per year for 2 years to me is high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To guarantee the 212 the next year. And I don't see us coming up with 212 this year either. So, I mean, I'd like to make maybe over 3 years, including this year, that might be more acceptable. But even at that, I mean, I'd like to hear what the other aldermen have to say, because it looks like it's just going to be Linda, June, and I that are going to be voting, considering there's kind of you can't and Lori can't.
And Lori can't.
Right.
Three of us to make
Yeah,
the
you're
decision.
sticking
So,
with us.
And
So-
trying to be
so
as
let's-
neutral as possible in the discussion too.
Yeah, so let's go back to the contingency that Alderman Clee was saying. So what were you looking at? Like 20,000 maybe, or 10,000 or something like that?
what did we do for contingency last year,
I
Carrie?
was going to ask Carrie, what did we do last, and what makes you feel least scared?
Last year, it ended up being about $5,300. It's a little off from that, but honestly, it doesn't scare me because we haven't really tapped into contingency in many years. If we've run into any unforeseen costs with the projects, the agencies have been actually able, I know we're at a very different time right now, but the agencies have in the past been able to come up with that gap funding. And then the other thing that contingency can be used for is, you know, an emergency or an unforeseen event that happens during the year. And again, we don't get a lot of those requests just because by the nature of how long it takes us to award the funds out, if it's an emergency, Cdbg is not always a good fit. You know, so a small amount I think is appropriate, you know, and honestly taking a chance and not doing any could even be appropriate.
Okay, great.
Can I make a suggestion? I don't know if this falls short of what they want to do, but if we said that we gave them 170 this year, and that would include the 100,000 of the HODAG, and then the next 2 years give them, and I don't know if this is too much, 100,000 CDBG and 25 from HODAG. That gives them 125 the 2 years. That more or less makes the 425. It's a couple dollars shy of that, but and I don't care if we say the following year give them the HODAG money, that would make up the difference. But how do the other voting aldermen feel about this? And I have to put it that way, sorry.
Well, the only thing I was thinking about with that, because you said over 2 years, we could do over 3 years and make it a little bit less.
Well, this would be 3 years. It would be this year plus 2 more years. So that would be 170 this year, including HODAG, 125 for the next 2 years,
Okay.
including HODAG. So it would be 100 from CDBG and then 25. And then what Alderwoman Wilshire said about if our funds are cut compared to what they are this year, that we would have to proportionately cut them.
Right.
To that amount. And then again, I don't mind if we say, okay, and then 1 more year out, we guarantee them the HODAG money. I feel comfortable with that. But that gives us that little bit of a buffer of $25,000. But I would like to hear what you all have to say. Again, I know this is not cast in stone. This is just filling the blank.
I'm not a voting alderman. I'm waiting for voting alderman.
Okay, I guess the reason,
Dead air.
where are you getting the 170? Because
Only because there's 84 sitting there right now.
right,
Correct.
so
And
you
then
believe that,
there's 100,
correct?
and
Yeah.
then there's 100,000 in Hodag. So I just said take 70 from the 84. That gives us 14 to play with, and
All right,
then the 100 from
14
Hodag. That's why I came with the
contingency.
170. And that leaves
Okay.
255. I mean, we could even say 175, and then that would leave, yeah.
250
So
even. Okay, do the
for the next
175.
years, yeah. So we could do 175 this year.
Okay.
Can you clarify where you want to put that extra money? I feel like I just heard from
Contingency.
Mary that she didn't necessarily need contingency.
She did say that she didn't necessarily need contingency, but for the sake of our discussion, if we said 75 out of CDBG for the Nashua Soup Kitchen.
Mhm.
Because we're still waiting to hear on some of those others that we did cut as far as what their need is. You know, maybe we could up them to 100,000. I don't know. It depends what comes through. That leaves 9,000 in contingency. And I know Carrie said that we don't always use it, but this is a year that's different than any other year. We don't know where other funding is going to come from. People aren't going to have the fundraising. I would feel comfortable if we had this buffer.
Okay,
And-
so for
And
the
that's why I
sake
said,
of it-
so if we said 75 from them and then the 100 from the Hodag, that's 175 for them up front. And then that leaves 250 in the balance. And if we promised, I don't know, so it'd be 100
125.
100 from CDBG and 25 from Hodag. That gives them $125 for the next 2 years.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's
So-
where I'm coming. That's why I'm coming up with that.
So just for the sake of it, take the net difference and just put it in contingency.
Yeah. So take the 91,3288 and put it into contingency just as a placeholder for us while we're still trying to get information. Does everybody feel comfortable with that? June,
Okay,
Linda?
Linda's okay. June?
So, yeah, I'm fine. I just want to see the legislation before I go all in.
Okay.
I'm crazy like that.
I hate this. Nobody told me this was going to be my job.
You're doing fabulous.
Yeah,
doing
great
fine.
job.
Maybe the clerk should do this next time. I don't know.
I did it for many years.
What a pain. Oh man. Okay.
I used to work with spreadsheets. I'm an ace at it.
It's
Oh,
really the bane of my
That's-
existence. I hate.
I do right now.
Well, that's because you put equal, you put a formula into your C column that said equal everything into the B column. So every time you're trying to go in there, it thinks you want to modify the formula and not the number. So
I have lots of skills. This is not one of them. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
So
experts
if
on
we do
it.
what was just suggested, I could just get a quick over. We're fully funding the 15% cap and the project delivery and administration. We kept owner occupied fully funded, but came down on rental. We chose to take all of the money out of rail trail. Only prioritize this bathroom for plus. We gave 2/3 of the roof to Girls Inc. And similarly, about half on the boiler for Marguerite's. 2/3 of the children's home. We ended up with 75,000 to the soup kitchen. We did the 12,990 for the one.
fence.
Yep, for the one fence. And then I think this is kind of a working number of the HVAC. We threw in 45,000.
Yeah.
And
It was 3.
yeah. And then this guy we prioritized, but left off the laundry hookup.
I mean, to be honest with you, if we could find the extra money, I would like to put it back into the rental improvement program. Only because I do foresee that also as an issue. Just like I said about the contingency, this is a bad year for people. And while I do see funds helping renters make their rent and possibly people with mortgage, things come out with gopher, just like we look at our own budget, we don't know that that's going to happen. And I think there are going to be more people in need than ever before. But I do agree with taking the 25,000 out of rental. I'd like to see if we could ever get it back in there. But for now, I feel comfortable with these numbers.
Okay. How about the other voting members? So Alderman Clee says she's happy. Alderman Harry Gathright.
Yes, I'm good.
Lori's not voting. I'm not voting. And we've got June.
Yeah, I'm fine for the, yeah, I'm okay.
Again, these are rough. We'll put this through, get the actual legislation started, and see if there's any additional information that can inform our sort of final decisions on these guys.
And Madam Chair, would you send us a copy of your spreadsheet?
I'm gonna stop sharing. So yes, but I'm gonna save it now so it doesn't.
Carrie has her hand up.
I have revealed to all of Nashua my ineptitude when it comes to Excel.
You're a superwoman. You do other things great, so can't do it all.
I'm okay admitting what I don't do well. Go ahead, Carrie.
Well, I'm pretty good at putting in calculations for spreadsheets, just so you know.
My husband's a rocket scientist. He's built me all kinds of crazy ones. I still hate it.
Carrie has a question.
Go ahead, Carrie.
Okay, so I just don't want to forget the bottom part of that spreadsheet, which is the home program. And just to quickly run over those numbers. Typically, I can probably just do it verbally, but normally that gets divided into just a few categories. The admin portion has a 10% cap. CHODO stands for Community Housing Development Organization. And that's actually regulatory that we have to set aside at least 15% each year for that type of development. So that's typically a nonprofit who is developing housing, a very specific nonprofit. And then we normally put the balance, oh, there it is. So we normally put the balance into affordable housing. We had talked about when we were developing the consolidated plan last year and the action plan, the home buyer assistance, and we weren't quite ready to carve that off in last fiscal year. So I did put it in as a placeholder for conversation this year. Again, I know we have another meeting to come to and go over this, but I just wanted to point that out, that was in there and it played in, especially to those affordable housing needs that we've been talking about. And the home buyer assistance under the home program, you can be what they consider moderate income, which is still fairly low. It's 80% of area median income is the cap for home buyers. But we're really hearing and seeing in the data that, sort of that middle income, those households are really having a difficult time getting into the home buyer market. And we had this program in the past and ran into some weird regulatory barriers because Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac had changed their underwriting rules, and it didn't line up nicely with the way we had our home fund set up. And so if we were to do this, there would be some work needed on the back end through my office to figure out to make sure that it can actually roll out this time and not get blocked by those barriers.
So we're looking for like $20,000 to pull out of this. Are you?
No, sorry. The 20,000, that was just a note that the home grant actually came in a little bit higher than what we estimated.
We don't have to cut anything. That feels great. Love it. Awesome. Okay.
So these funds are stagnant. They are what they are. The 447,000 is just separated amongst these categories. Is that correct?
Correct. The four categories below that number equal $447 and $23.
If the home buyer was not, you said it was a placeholder discussion, like if it wasn't there, where would that money go? Or where could it go?
It would go into just the general affordable housing development line item, and that is for any either nonprofit or for-profit who's developing low-income housing.
Given the needs of the city right now, do you think where you're not quite, sounds like you're not quite ready for home buyer assistance, would you want to put it in the affordable housing development, or are you feeling confident that you can get to a place where that home buyer assistance program could get up and running?
I feel confident that we could get it up and running. I think learning some of the lessons when we ran into those barriers, and there's been so many regulatory changes since then. I feel like we could speak to an entity like New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority or NeighborWorks that are really skilled at doing this and figure out how to work our home funds so that it does work.
Okay. Heather.
Madam Chair,
Yep.
Thank you. Something just when Carrie said the New Hampshire Housing Authority, something clicked in my brain. When Michael was speaking, he was talking about needing proof that they could get the funds in order to be able to engage the New Hampshire Housing Authority. This proposal that we've made, I know he's not here, but can we find out if that would be enough to help him with that aspect of it? Did I make sense?
Yes, I know what you're asking.
Yeah.
I'm happy to follow up with Michael, or I'm sure Carrie can do that as well.
Okay, yeah, because I'd like to know if what we're proposing helps him get to his end with the New Hampshire Housing Authority.
Okay.
That he has shown that there's good faith that
Okay.
he's going to get the funding.
Yeah, and then the other piece also, I'll ask him that, and then I'll ask for some thoughts on doing a tour. I don't know if the committee has a day of the week that's better.
Usually Fridays is better for me, but I don't know about Alderwoman Harry Gathright with her committees, but
she's rolling her eyes.
We just never. I started at 8:30 this morning, and just before 6:30 is when my committee ended today. So, and I know the first week of April we're going to have 2 days of session.
Is that on a Friday though? Because I'm trying to.
No, it'll be a Wednesday. If I've got it correctly, it's either Tuesday, Wednesday, or Wednesday, Thursday, and it's going to be all day. It's going to be at least 2 days, could be 3, but I don't think it'll be Friday.
Okay. I know I don't have anything this Friday. I don't know about next Friday until this Friday.
Alderman Wilshire?
Fridays work for me.
Do you is any time during the day? I think we'd probably have to consider when they're occupied and when they're doing meals, because I'm sure Michael will need around those times. Okay.
This Friday would be great for me if we could do it.
Let me see if we can do that. Yeah, I mean, I've already toured it, but happy to go again. But let me see if he can find a time this Friday for that.
Is this going to become a quorum type of situation where we have to invite the public?
Yep.
So maybe we shouldn't all do it at once?
Correct.
Okay. So maybe he could give us
I've already been there.
Okay, I was going to say, maybe he could give us a couple of different days or something like that where we could go. I mean, for me, this Friday would work well.
I guess I've gone on site visits with the conservation committee and didn't think about that, but it's because we're not an aldermanic meeting. That's why I was like, oh, we need to open quorum. Thank you for that, Lori. Okay, I'll send that out to him, and we'll get some follow-up on that, and maybe he can do some individual tours.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Are we feeling good? I will send out this rough estimate so we can get going on the legislation piece. Great.
Typically, Madam Chair, sponsor it if the committee usually sponsors it.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. We'll get that going. Anything else in general discussion, guys?
Yeah. Madam Chair.
Yes.
The CAC committee is meeting March 18th, right, Carrie?
She's shaking her head, yes.
Yes, sorry,
Yeah,
correct.
okay. Yeah, so the amount of money that we're putting aside for them, can Carrie and I tell them that's what we have so we can finish our allocations because we have to get it to the mayor's office? Or do you anticipate when we get the legislation back that the committee might want to make changes?
That's an open conversation with the committee. Go ahead, Lori.
We've always just voted on, on the amount, and we typically haven't changed it, so.
Yeah.
It's got to go in the resolution, and they'll know that if the resolution doesn't pass, they can't get the money, but we've done it on a good faith kind of,
Not going to be
put that
dragged
number in there.
$100,000 from one place to the next. Okay.
Yeah, I just get concerned, but at least if they know, then they can work the numbers, and then if they get less, then obviously Carrie usually takes care of that when the numbers are changed. Do we have to vote on this to send it to make legislation, or we're just sending it?
I think you should vote on the amount that you want to give.
I think we should be voting.
CAC.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
We need to bring it up for a formal vote to send it to legislation.
No, we've always just voted on it as a committee and then included it with the resolution.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You want more motion?
What I was hoping for.
Harry has her hand up again.
Carrie can't make motions.
I'll make
Motion did this.
If I may, Madam Chair, I'm sorry, no, I can't make a motion and I'm not about to. I did just want to mention, we were going to try to work it in the beginning of the conversation with the presentation. Just to remind folks that the city currently has the COVID-19 Impact Fund out for availability, and that is for businesses that have been negatively impacted by the pandemic. And we're focusing really on smaller businesses with a priority on what they call disadvantaged enterprises. And so that's what we would, typically refer to as minority or women-owned businesses. We have funds pooled both from Cdbg, which we received under the CARES Act, and that was already approved under separate legislation, as well as economic development has a loan fund that they've also received additional money through. So in total, it's about 1.2 million that will be available to these businesses. If it's a business that qualifies for Cdbg, they'll receive a grant, which will be capping at 25,000. And those are micro enterprises. So it's a small business. It's 5 or fewer employees, including the owner, where the owner is also low income. And then if they don't qualify under that criteria, there's a couple other ways. If we don't get enough of those applications, we would look at businesses who are creating, or probably saving and retaining jobs for low-income individuals, or serving a low-income area. So like a local corner market or something like that. But that first tier that we're going to look at is the micro enterprise. And then those that don't qualify for Cdbg will automatically be considered for the loan, which will go through the Economic Development Revolving Loan Fund. And that Revolving Loan Fund Committee will be looking at these applications. The deadline is March 14th, so it's about a week more, around midnight. And the information is posted on Economic Development's website under resources. If they go to urban programs, we have a little blip that basically refers them over there. And folks can just feel free to give either urban programs or economic development a call if they need any assistance at all.
I will also offer myself up if anyone is looking for help with this. I'm very passionate about, there's definitely been some holes in helping minority-owned businesses, especially in getting access to like the bigger PPP opportunities. So I'm really thankful for the city to put something together for those types of businesses in our community. So thank you for your work on that, Carrie, and anyone who's looking for help, please I'll reach out for sure. With that,
So I had a motion, right? The
you have a
motion-
motion, right?
Well, I didn't know if what she had to say was pertinent to my motion,
You're
so.
fine. You're good.
I don't have the dollar amount. I think it's 99,151 maybe.
Hold on.
Yes,
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to allocate $99,151 to the community grant program.
I'll second.
We have to do this for each line item.
No, this is just so that they can get the money allocated in their process.
Got it. Just this one line item. Got it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
It's late. now.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Any
should I
discussion on the motion?
Alderwoman Kelly,
Yes.
Alderman Clee,
Yes.
Alderman Harriet Gathright,
Yes.
Alderman Karen,
Yes,
Alderman Wilshire votes yes. We have 5 yeas, 0 nays.
Great. And the
thank
motion
you.
carries. Okay. I think we have public comment. I don't see any members of the public here. I'm missing my tab again.
Remarks by Alderman?
Are there any remarks from the lovely alderman on this call? Thank you.
I would like to thank everyone. This is a hard process, and especially this year. And I really think that we work diligently to try to accommodate all our agencies. So kudos to everyone, even the two that, really couldn't do too much on this project. But yay to Alderman Clee and Alderman Harriet Gathright.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Plus the silent two, we get.
We helped.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Woo-hoo.
I'm not sure I know how to be sad.
Oh.
Any other
And I'll
remarks?
make a motion to adjourn.
We have
Oh,
no
yes.
non-public, and there is a motion to adjourn from Alderman Karen.
Alderwoman Clee,
Yes.
Alderman Kelly,
Yes.
Alderman Harriet Gathright,
Yes.
Alderman Karen,
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire votes yes. We have 5 yeas, 0 nays.
That motion
Thanks.
carries. Thank you, everyone, for hanging in. Long night, but good work.
Good meeting.
Good night.